Hello, hello, good afternoon, happy Saturday. Let me adjust my chair here for a second. There we go. Welcome, everybody. Wanted to come in live because woke up this morning and was just filled with this concept of the body being dangerous and wanted to do this video and share my perspective on this and why I actually think that this is key for reinventing ourselves in our 40s. Because I know that as we get older, there is a stronger and stronger desire to change things, whether it's to change our health, money, relationships, careers, all kinds of things. Okay. And as I get older, I'm really realizing that all of that we're looking for, the power of that is really originating in the body. So when I talk about the body being dangerous in this scenario, what I mean is I mean that in the best possible way, right? So as we get to understand who and what we are, what this physical form is about, it gives us tremendous clarity and it also gives us the power, the focus to create whatever change we want, whether again that change is internal or whether it's going to be internal, right? So whatever reinvention or reinventing yourself means to you. So that's what I just kind of want to share with you, riff on. Love to get your perspective. Feel free to, let me know in the chat where you are tuning in from. At any point, if I say something where you have a question or you just have an insight or an aha moment, feel free to drop it in the chat, right? So getting back to this idea of the body being dangerous. So that is like the positive, the light side of things. But before we can even get into the light side of things, we also need to talk about more the shadow side of things. And that's kind of what hit me this morning. So I'm going to give you a couple of examples that are just coming from my personal experience. And I think many of you probably have had similar experiences, but I was thinking back to when I was like a teenager. So with, age 13, 14, I'm living in Cameroon. It's the 90s. And I also have access to Teen Magazine, right? So I was having that was being sent to me from abroad. And I remember one of the very, very first things that I learned from Teen Magazine, right? I had not come across this prior. I had not come across it even from other magazines that were coming from abroad for whatever reason. But in Teen Magazine, the breast self-exam was one of the very first things that hit me, right? It was talked about frequently. It's important to check your breasts, make sure you don't have lumps. If you do, go see a doctor, all of that stuff. And that really stuck with me. And at the same time, now when I reflect back on that, one of the things that I see in that is that that was just one piece of the conversation relating to our breasts, right? So what I mean is that was the piece of the conversation that was teaching about what can go wrong. So if things go wrong, this is what it will feel like. This is what you should look for. These are the steps you should take, right? But there was no opposing, balancing conversation about the things that can go right with the breasts and also the power that they hold, especially if we're talking about energetics, for example. Okay. Now, to be clear, this is not me knocking anything related to prevention, right? So the breast self-exam has its purpose, is essential, is necessary, it saves lives. The point I'm saying is when I think about the fact that I am just entering, what we call early womanhood, I'm still learning the ins and outs of everything. And the only message that I got about my breasts were this is something to worry about every month. And I do find that interesting because what that does is it creates this perception, even if it wasn't said loudly, but it creates a perception that the body is dangerous. It's a danger zone. So that's one thing where I'm like, it would have been nice to have the other side of the conversation, right? That teaches, like I said, about the energetics, about things that other traditions have always known, right? So that's one example. The other example of like the dark side of it, still related to really just the anything to do with sex or reproduction, is very much sex ed. Sex ed is very much just a conversation of just all the things, what to be afraid of, what to worry about. It's prevention focused. Again, it's necessary, it's practical, but it's not the whole thing, right? There is a flip side to that conversation, which is where this is what you should know when it comes to the pleasurable, enjoyable side of things. And typically, and I think when I think about my own experience growing up, it's like, okay, got all the information about what to be fearful of, right? Again, danger zone, danger zone. But then the information of the enjoyable side, the pleasurable side, oh, well, you just randomly learn things, I don't know, from books, magazines, movies, like the worst places ever to learn things, right? Just random information from friends, like all the randomness, right, is the point of this. It's like if there was as much intentionality that was put into the proper education of that young person, of both sides of the spectrum, of the things to be careful about and to be cautious about, and also of just how to also do things right, and the pure pleasure side of things, and also even the spiritual side of things. It's like this is not just about mechanics. This is not just about body parts. This is a and to interaction between bodies, it's energy being exchanged. You have the potential to create life, but framing it in a way that truly represents the beauty and the power of that interaction, of that experience. That is often missing, right? That was certainly not there. So those are two ways in which I kind of see like that dark side of when it comes to like the body being dangerous, right? That's the shadow side of it. And you can even take it to another level with something like high blood pressure, right? Very, very common. And many years ago is when I learned from another doctor here on YouTube about like we need to reframe how we look at something like that, because it's again often talked about like it's just the body maybe making some mistake or something going wrong. But the analogy he used is like, okay, you've got blood flowing through your vessels. Think about if you have water flowing through a hose. If there is some sort of obstruction in that hose, if there is maybe something that is making that water to not be as fluid, maybe the viscosity of it has changed, you do need more pressure, right? It's just pure physics. You're going to need more pressure to get that fluid to move through. And that was the analogy he was using to say the same thing when you think about high blood pressure. And the point of this was it's not a mistake. This is the body intelligently saying, ooh, things have changed. I need to take steps to ensure that your body can still function, that your system can still function properly. So that is how we inadvertently, I think, we can end up having this perception of our own body that it is a danger zone, that it is dangerous. But then now, if we can also flip that and start looking at other traditions and other conversations and literature and text that has always actually pointed to the fact that there's so much more magic going on. And one of it will go back again to that creative energy, to the sexual energy, because all of these things tie back to that. And I learned this from Shiheng Yi. I will link to the video where he talks about it. It's just like 3 to 5 minutes. But he is the head of the Shaolin Temple in Europe. The Shaolin tradition is basically related to martial arts. And the reason I even got into all of this was because I am somebody who practices Qigong. Qigong is part of the martial arts tradition, even though the form of Qigong that I practice is not the same form as what they do in for martial arts purposes. But at the end of the day, it's all pointing to the same thing, which is helping you to work with your own energy. And one of the things he said that was really helpful for me was sexual energy, the essence of it is for creation, right? It is the energy that creates life. There is nothing more potent, nothing, right? You can bring new life onto this planet with that. But if we remove the life part, the essence of it is creation, which means if you're not using it for creating a human, you can access, you can harness it to create, let's say, new cells in the example that he used. And this is, for example, this is where we start getting into the space of like, self-healing that is becoming more and more talked about these days, where there are lots of different people out here teaching people how to harness the energy that's already within them to address health challenges that they are not able to resolve otherwise. So that's one example. But when I heard that, I actually went a step further. I'm like, oh yeah, this is where when people even talk about manifestation, and again, harnessing your energy to create something new. Because to his point, the essence of that energy is always to create. So from my perspective, it's like, yeah, you can create life with it. You can create new cells with it, like he says. You can create, I don't know, new experiences for yourself, right? You can create new habits, like you can, whatever it is, new career, more money. Like this is where things again start to get into that manifestation space, but we're basically all of it is still harnessing the same energy, because life energy must go somewhere. It must, right? And when our life energy is not moving and being channeled towards the things that we want, also, that is when we start to experience heaviness, stagnation. And that feeling of heaviness and stagnation is one that a lot of us in midlife often can experience, because we want to change things. We're looking for new things, but maybe we're not taking the steps necessary. Maybe we've not even learned to harness the energy that is inside of us. And so when we say, oh, I'm stuck in life, right? Very, very common phrase, very, very common feeling. But that stuckness is simply because is that we've got energy, but for now, maybe we're directing it to the wrong things, like to the things that are not moving us towards what we want. Or maybe we're just not making a decision at all, which is again stagnation, which will feel heavy physically, it will feel heavy emotionally, it will feel heavy spiritually, right? In all the ways, stagnation never feels good. And that, to bring this full circle, is why I wanted to make this video, because what I am realizing is that as I look at more of these traditions, as I read different books, I'm starting to understand that there is so much more. So going back, for example, to what I talked about with the energy of the breast, right? This book right here, Tantric Orgasm for Women, highly recommend. One of the most helpful, informative books that most of us will probably never read. And the book is about so much more than orgasms. Don't, not knocking it. It's great for that. But at the same time, you learn so much about how your body works and how different parts of your body operate. And this is the only person, this is the only material I've come across, right, that really explained in a practical way for, how our bodies, just how we're built within the context of sex, but also framing it within the context of spirituality, right? Understanding. So it's an amazing book. I cannot recommend it enough. And you can read it you can read it just to be like, yeah, I'm just going to be curious about, because you're going to learn so many things. Like I said, just understanding what it means to pay attention to your breasts, to do self massage your own breast, what the energy of the breast does biologically. There are so many little nuances, and it reframes so many of the mainstream conversations that we have out there. The other book that I also have had for years is Becoming Supernatural. You've probably heard of Joe Dispenza. He would basically be the poster boy today for all things related to, you know, this movement around self-healing, right? And harnessing our creative energy. So ultimately, what he is presenting is not new as far as the knowledge that we humans have always had, right? He didn't invent something new. Like every teacher, he's found his own way of presenting it. But these concepts have always been talked about, but they were maybe always, reserved to certain people, and they were in books that weren't always easy to read. So yes, now with people like him, we have that type of work that is out there for the masses to enjoy, to consume. And if you go to his YouTube channel, there are lots of stories of people changing their health, their money, their everything, right? And it's all still going back to the same basic principles. When you understand what you are, what this is all about, you can now harness that energy. You can now practice harnessing that energy for whatever change you want to enact. And I really think that for those of us that are in our 40s, we're getting into our 50s, this is the time. Like, if not now, when? Like, this is the opportunity, because we're coming out of several decades of really making decisions and choices that often were influenced by the perception, the sort of incomplete, right, image that we had of ourselves and of our body. And when you now get that full understanding, it will crack something open, right? But what it does is it gives you the confidence, it gives you the clarity, right, to just go ahead and do the things that you've always wanted to do. And I'm not trying to say that this just makes things all rosy and perfect and magical, but that sense of what is this all about, for example, you start to get clarity with reading these types of books, with consuming this type of information. So like I said, I really would recommend that if you are having this strong desire to reinvent yourself in midlife, you don't know where to start, it really always starts inside, right? It's not just about understanding, but inner standing. Get to know this one, because this is, it may not seem like it may seem like, that maybe we have to first go and understand the outside first, but no, actually it's in here. And we really have not been given a very good picture. Most of us, we're not given a full picture of who and what we are. But the good thing is, it's 2026. There are no excuses to be in the dark anymore. This information is out there freely. And if that desire is strong in you, then go ahead and start looking for this information. And really, what I share with you is, I can honestly say, is one of the core reasons why I chose the name the Beyond Estrogen Collective for my group. It was because I wanted to have conversations that go beyond just what do I do about my estrogen, right? How do I balance this hormone? Because there is so much more to us. And that has its place, but it cannot be the only thing, because that is still, to me, too myopic, too narrow, and not satisfying. Like, there's a degree of satisfaction that we're looking for, and enjoyment of life that we start to look for and crave more in midlife. And for me, the way has been to learn more about the who, the what of this, this form that I have taken. And then from there, be able to take actions. So that's what I wanted to share with you. And yeah, I appreciate having you here. If you're watching the replay, if you have any questions, comments, any insights, any aha moments that come up for you, feel free to drop them in the comments. I'd love to get your perspective on this. I'd love to hear about what you are doing when it comes to the desire to reinvent yourself, if there is such a desire. All right. So thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.